Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Sam Healey. Gotta fix the box.
Okay, and today we're taking a look at Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. This is the newest living card game from Fantasy Flight. A living card game means that they have a base set. This is the base set, and then each, not every month, but almost every month, they release more cards. But you don't have to buy them randomly. The cards come in packs that are pre-made. Now, this is based on Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop, which Sam and I have played more than a little. Actually, I think it's safe to say Sam's played it a lot more than me even. But for a while, we were both really heavily into it. For a year of my life, it was almost the only game I played.
Yeah.
Now this was...
It sucks you in like that.
This was a long time ago. We're talking 15 years ago.
We're talking at least 3 editions ago.
No, more than that. It's 5 editions ago.
Really?
Yes.
I thought we came in on...
We came in 3rd. They're about to release 8th. Wow. Yeah. Oh, no, we played into the beginnings of 4th, and that's when we stopped. Anyhow, Warhammer 40K is an extremely expensive miniatures game where you can buy really good quality miniatures, no arguing that, to play
For exorbitant prices.
Yeah, to play a game that a lot of people like, then it's still going strong today. So, can they capture that in the card game? And... well, is the card game any good? One thing, it has Eric Lang's name on the box. So that's kind of a +1 for me at this point. Let's take a look. At the beginning of the game, you're going to pick the warlord of who you're going to use. So here we have Captain Kato Sicarius. He's an ultramarine. They're double-sided. This is their regular side, and this is their wounded side. They have some numbers on the bottom of them. You see that 7/7. That's how many starting resources you start with and how many starting cards you start with. Since every single character in the game is 7/7, maybe that will change in the future. You also will have a deck of cards. Now, this deck can be made up of the folks that you are part of. Here we have the Space Marines. They go with him, so there's a Space Marine deck. Now, a deck is supposed to have more than just, you have to have 50 cards. They don't give you 50 cards per faction. However, you can also use these as small starting decks, or the game book comes with this chart here, which shows you who can match up with who. So if I'm Space Marines, I can take some of the Astra Militarum, which I keep wanting to say Imperial Guard, but apparently they've changed it at some point. Or units from the Tau. I can only use units from one of the two, and there's some of the units only work with their own faction. And so you have these Necrons can use some of the units from all of them, and Tyranids don't work with anybody. Tyranids and Necrons are not in this expansion, while we do have the other faction in here. Here we have Chaos, which is led by the High Sorcerer. Here we have the Eldar, which is led by Eldaroth Starbane. Here we have the Orcs, which is led by Nazarag, and they get to go, wah! And here we have Colonel Straken, who leads the the Astra Militarum, yay. Then we have the Tau, Commander Shadowsun leads them, and then finally we have the Dark Eldar, led by Packmaster Kith. So you can see that there's quite a few cards that come with the game. So let's go back and look at the Space Marines. Now, when you do take this guy and you do make a deck, this guy will come with 8 cards that match him exactly. And those cards they have little numbers on the side. You also notice here that here's a tactical squad. You'll notice that this is how much damage they do, and that's how many hit points they have. When your leader gets enough hit points to go past 6 damage, then he flips over and becomes bloody. If he gets hit again, then you lose the game. Now, there are 10 location cards that come in this game. You only use 7 for each game. You're going to put 5 face up and 2 are face down. You'll put this token on it to show what the active planet is, and the game will begin. What you'll do in the first round of the game is players are going to be deploying cards from their hand. Now, when you look at your hand, let's say I want to play the very powerful Land Raider. This is going to cost me 5 resources, and once I play it, then I can place it at one of the planets on the board. Sometimes there's war gear. This is like this one, this Godwin pattern bolter that attaches to someone. So I might be able, this says I can attach to an army unit, so maybe I can attach it here to this soldier here, or I can attach it to different people, and that becomes something that will help that person out. So players are going to take turns putting things out. Once they're done placing these units at the different planets, then players are going to use this dial to secretly send their warlord to one of the planets. The dial has numbers on it, and essentially you're going to send them to, this is planet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, after you send out these guys, this guy, your leader, is in your headquarters. As the game progresses, there are cards that will put other units in your headquarters, or if you ever have units forced off a planet for whatever reason, or they retreat from battle, they will also be in your headquarters. So when you come down, you bring everybody in your headquarters with you. Now, after this has been done, then you're going to look at each planet, and it is called the command phase, and each planet has a command struggle. What you're fighting over for is on the planet. You'll notice that there's 2 numbers here to show basically how many cards the winner of that struggle will get and how many resources you'll get. So players are going to want cards and resources. Here you get no cards, but here you get 2 resources. So if you have a warlord at the planet and your opponent does not, and your warlord is active, which means he's not exhausted. I'm just going to say tapped occasionally because, well, Wizards isn't going to sue me. But anyhow, if you have your leader at a planet, no one else says, you automatically win. All right. Otherwise, you will take a look at the command symbols on the card. Notice those 3 little hammers right here on this Land Raider. Whoever has more of those will win that planet and get the resources. Once you're done doing that, that's a way to get cards and resources, and that's important to do because at the end of each round, you get 2 more cards and 4 more resources, which is probably not enough, so getting these will be an edge. Then there will be a battle. There's a possibility of 3 battles. If your opponent has, or you, have your warlord or your leader at one of the planets, then there's going to be a battle there. And then there's always a battle at planet number 1. Now, a battle takes place if anyone on either side has ranged, which in this game isn't necessarily. I think of it more as like artillery. Then they get to attack first, and after that round, then everybody is going to take turns tapping, or I keep saying tapping, but exhausting people. So I might decide to exhaust this honored librarian to do 4 damage to one of my opponents. He also has special ability, enemy units cannot attack this unit while you control a unit not named Honored Librarian. So if he's with somebody else, they can't attack him. So then I will then put that damage on the other person, and there's damage counters that come with the game when you do damage. This will go back and forth until everybody has gone, and then either player can decide to pull off the planet, or you can keep fighting until somebody wins. Now, whoever wins the planet is going to get to do whatever the battle action. Like for here, you discard a card at random from your opponent's hand. Here, you can take a resource from your opponent. However, if you win the first planet, then you get to keep the planet card also. Now, you notice top of these planet cards, there's 3 different types of planets here. There's red, green, and blue. Each of those things stands for something. I cannot remember away from me. Material, strong point, and tech. Now, that doesn't matter for anything other than if you're trying to collect cards that have the same symbol on them. So you'll see the card that has all 3 symbols on is the winner. If you ever get 3 planets, the one with the 3 symbols on is a very good one. If you ever get 3 planets that have the same symbol, you win. So if I get this one, and then later on I get this one, you'll see that I have 3 red symbols and 3 blue symbols, but 3 of any symbols is enough to win you the game. So there's 2 ways to win the game: by getting the symbols on those planets, and by eliminating your opponent's warlord. Now you'll note that some of the cards have skulls on them. That's a defensive card, and these cards can be played when someone attacks you. You can play them from your hand, and you can block that much damage. You can only play 1, but some cards like this Agonizer of Bren show 3 skulls, this iron rifle, so you have to decide whether the card's worth playing or whether it's using for the skulls. And then in deck building, you're going to have to decide how many of these to put in your deck, because you can save the lives of some of your people with this, blocking 3 damage that's coming at them. We're going to take a look at some of the cards that are in the decks. I'm not going to give any kind of major strategy tips on these. I'm just talking about just showing them to you so you can see. These cards are neutral cards. They can be put in anyone's deck. So here you have a Rogue Trader, and then that Dreadnought. Do I hate the Dreadnought? There's Deathwing Guard, and here's some Blood Angel veterans, and here's the Daring Assault Squad, and let's see, the Tactical Squad. There's just some really mean and nasty stuff that's in the Marine deck. Now we'll look at some other decks here. Let's see, we got a Soul Grinder and Ravenous Fleshhounds. Those guys seem nice. Or this Black Legion Helldrake. Well, he seems kind of mean. Then we have a Hellion Gang and a Beast Hunter Witches, or a Baleful Mandrake. Here we have a Suffering. What a great card to play on somebody else. That seems really nice. Here we have the Earth Case Technician, big deal. Crisis Battle Guard, that's much cooler. Or a Fire Warrior Strike Team. Or Shadow Sun Stealth Cadre. Or Strachan's Command Squad. Or a Sanctioned Psyker. Or let's see what else we got in here. This Big Tooth Banna. That's an orc, and orcs are cool. But cooler orcs, we got Burna Boys and Golf Knob. I've always wondered why the orcs feel the need to put Z's at the end. We have Starbane's Council and the Swordwind Farseer and the Iyanden Wraithguard. Wraithguards are really powerful. I've always liked them in the actual game themselves. So these are some of the cards in the game. A lot of cool things about this. First of all, I'm really surprised. There are 9 factions and 7 of them are in the box. I really thought they would come out with Imperial Guard and, Space Marines and Orcs.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
See, now you're throwing cards at the table. I've affected you. But anyhow.
But they're rubber banded together, so it's okay.
Anyhow, that's pretty cool. Now, what some people will complain about is that they don't actually give you enough to play a full game in one faction. You'd have to buy 2 boxes, and a lot of people do that so that they can make a deck. However, you are allowed to mix decks in this. Now, I showed you the little rotation sheet, and the mixing decks is kind of cool, but there are a few odd things on here. I don't think orcs and we might accidentally call Astra Militarum Imperial Guard occasionally.
We're old school, sorry.
I don't think orcs would mix with them. Do you?
I don't know. They could.
I guess if they're fighting the Tyranid or something.
The enemy of my... What is that phrase?
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So yeah, I guess there's ways. But I mean, I guess you don't have orcs mixing with Space Marines, so...
That's the only thing. I think that Imperial Guard mixed with Space Marines. Space Marines and Tau, I can see them working together. Tau and Eldar, that's obvious. Eldar and Dark Eldar, they might hate each other, but they're brothers. Dark Eldar, Chaos, they're both evil. Chaos, Orcs, the Chaos is probably telling the Orcs what to do.
Yep.
And Tyranid doesn't work with anyone, and I like that.
They're bugs. Nobody likes them.
But let me ask you this, before we talk about the gameplay itself. Do you feel that the cards brought out the theme of each army? Obviously, artwork is dead on.
Off the chart, off the chain.
Okay. But do you think, like, when you played as Space Marines, did you feel like you had a Rhino or whatever?
Right. Okay, well, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking, from 4th edition, so that's where our expertise
Well, I have sneaked a look at, since I was always a fan of the Eldar, I always go look at their latest codex just to see.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm basing my comments off of the 4th edition play that I have, and I still have a couple of armies, Sisters of Battle, and a few Space Marines. But I think each deck works well together, and I was telling Tom earlier that I like how each faction, the deck that comes with the base game, it has a kind of like a corporate feel to the deck. For example, the Space Marines, it's got a little bit of everything. You got some Ravenwing in there. It's got some Deathwing characters in there, and it's got some Ultramarine characters in there, and it just kind of gives an overall swath of the entire chapter. It doesn't focus in on one, and I like that because if if your favorite chapter is Dark Angels or Ravenwing and you've got a little bit of that in there, but if your chapter is the Ultramarines, well, you've got a little bit of that in there too. And each of the factions are like that. They pull everything together. And I thought that was really cool. It gave a very cool feel to the game.
I do wonder if after a certain point in time you will be able to, especially with the Space Marines.
Right.
Because unlike any other army, Space Marines are very segregated when you play it. People are playing Blood Angels, Dark Angels. Eldar are also kind of segregated. It's just, they have to fight. But they're not. It's nothing like the. I mean, when I played Eldar, I played all the Eldar.
Yeah.
I might switch from battle to battle.
Right.
But when Sam played Space Marines, you had very specific armies.
Yeah, I did. I think I ran. I started out with salamanders, and then that army got stolen.
I know you're watching the show.
Yeah, I know, right? But and then because man, I put so much time into painting them too. Anyway, I had salamanders. I had a beautiful Land Raider, and anyway. After that, I went with Dark Angels, and then after that, I focused more on the Raven Wing aspect of the Dark Angels a little bit. But I mean, people were playing Blood Angels, people were playing.
Oh, well, anyway, we're talking about this game.
All kinds of stuff, man. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I guess going back to what you were saying, after
after a
different
while,
expansions come out, you'll be able to actually have your own chapter of the Space Marines out on the table. That would be very cool if they could do that. But we'll see.
I will tell you this. You will find that the entire unit is condensed to a special ability and a couple stats.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, yeah. When you brought out what's the Goliath, right? Was it the Goliath?
Dreadnought.
Oh, the Dreadnought. Sorry, Goliath's StarCraft. Anyway, when you brought out the Dreadnought, I was like, whoa! And just like I remember from the game itself. So at least they do that. But be forewarned, it's not that complicated. And then that brings me into gameplay itself. This game is not a complex game.
No.
If you think it's, you're like, oh, if I'm teaching someone Warhammer 40,000, there's a bit of teaching to be done.
Yes.
This game, I think I could teach you in less than 10 minutes. A new person.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. And
gameplay. It's very, very simple.
And part of that, I think, is because many of the bits and pieces of this come from other games.
Yeah.
You're fighting over different areas, which kind of reminded me of Star Wars, the collectible card game from Decipher. You tap different units to attack them, which was a little like Magic. So it's kind of like a mishmash of stuff. I didn't.
Yeah,
was there anything that was like spectacularly novel about the game?
No, not really. I guess. I mean, maybe the sending your leader down was kind of a newish thing that you could.
You could buff up your leader and go fight somewhere.
And that was a little bit different, where your leader actually helped you win better, but you didn't have to send your forces with your leader. You could send your leader somewhere else. I thought that was kind of newish. Yeah, but no, I think there was just a conglomeration of a lot of different familiar mechanics, and that just really made teaching the game so simple.
Now, the box here says 30 to 60 minutes, and that's really true.
Yeah,
I think it even leans more towards the shorter side. Once you know what you're doing, it's not that difficult. You throw things out, the battles are going to have to end. Someone's going to have to win. And after, I think the minimum number of battles you fight will probably be 7 or 8. I mean, maybe not, depending, but someone's going to eventually win a certain number of areas.
You have to have 4 to win, right?
Well, 3 of the same kind.
Right.
So you could it technically could be over in 3 turns, and then go all the way up to however many, depending on what planets or what types.
Right.
I like the game. It's interesting and entertaining. Again, because it's a living card game, I always feel like we're giving 60% of the review.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I would like to see later on. Because we really couldn't do much deck building other than mixing 2 factions together. And even though that's kind of interesting, I personally prefer to play with 1 faction.
Yeah.
And mix it up. And I also like to see more of the base cards, neutral cards, to mix those in so that when I bring a deck, it's my deck.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the best things we did about Warhammer, right? When we played, I didn't just say, oh, I'll print out an army I found on the internet. I always built my own army.
Yeah.
And I rebuild it and build it again and build it again.
Army Builder 2.0.
Well, it's way past that now.
I know.
But yeah, and that's what I wanted to do with this. So my tentative rating for this is 1 thumbs up. I like it. I'm not in love with it or anything, but that could change when more cards come out. Am I going to get more for it? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. At least maybe to try.
That's my thing with living card games. I know they're not as expensive as collectible card games, but they are still kind of expensive. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you pay, what, $30-$40 for the base game, and then you have $15-$20 for each, maybe $12-$15 for each little set. You buy a few bucks, and you buy a few of those packs, and now you're up to, 60, 70.
Well,
80,
I'm hoping that the
$80.
sets are army-specific, so
you
that
can
you'll
pick and
be able to
choose?
pick and choose. You would do that, right? If you saw Space Marine Orcs, that's what you would buy.
Probably would. I'd stay away from other factions and focus on other ones.
So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But what's your opinion of the base set as stands right now?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the game does a really good job of exemplifying the game, Warhammer 40K. So because of that, I'm going to give it a tentative 1.5 thumbs up, because I like the I like the expandable nature of it, but I'm kind of tentative because, like some of my gripes have been with Mage Wars, where there's too many cards and setting up a deck now is kind of it's more of a chore for some people.
Yeah, but I think here, though, the decks will be faster. Essentially, all you have to do is throw in, you're not allowed to have too many of one kind of card, and then you just throw in cards of your faction, boom, 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 you're done.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of tentative. I want to see how easy it is to expand your decks, and if it is a simple process, well, then maybe that one thumb will be turned up. But for right now, it's 1.5. I want to see what happens later on.
I'll say this. If you like Warhammer 40K, check it out.
Yeah.
If you like living card games, check it out. I think fans of both those genres. If you're not a fan of either, I don't think you should get this. I don't think it would... You know what I'm saying? If you don't like Warhammer 40K, and you don't like living card games much, then this is probably not for you.
I don't know.
It's not going to draw people into the game.
No, that's what I was kind of thinking. If you don't like Warhammer 40K, you're not going to really have a desire to buy this game, because it is very 40K feeling. It does have that very thick theme on it. But if you enjoy the living card game system and the other living card games that Fantasy Flight's been putting out, I'd give it a try. You might find that you like it.
Alrighty, that's Warhammer 40K Conquest.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.